Hello and welcome to the Hearthstone Campus Clash Finals here. Of course, this is brought to you by the NUEL and all of our wonderful sponsors, Asus ROG, Intel and Twitch Student. I'm Ollie, I'm joined by Sir Salty.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Of course, the rest of the production crew. Now, do you want to run through very quickly what the format for today's games are?
Yeah, so it's going to be a Conquest a best of 5 format with one ban each, so pretty similar to the old HCT system that they had. Even we saw it at Worlds as well recently. That just happened a couple weeks ago actually, exact same format. So yeah, some of the players even took inspiration actually from some of the decks that we saw at Worlds. So yeah.
And something else to note, the last time these teams played in the rest of the season, it was before the rotation, so we're seeing completely new decks from both of these teams. Now, these two teams, as I have not introduced them quite yet, are the Durham Defenders from, you guessed it, Durham University, and the Hearthstoners from Birmingham. Now, I want to say that Birmingham coming into this is probably the favourite to win it. It's maybe not as disparaging as maybe some other finals potentially could be this evening. There's still obviously very easy potential for Durham to win it, but I would certainly say Durham are trying to play upset.
Yeah, it's not so much necessarily the skill level that is the reason Durham is sort of the underdog. It's more to do with the lineups going in. Durham has this Shaman list, which is really sort of I would argue questionable. I know the Durham players advocate for it, or at least the sort of Ross, who is the one who played it. He managed to get top 500 legend playing exclusively the Shaman last season, so he thinks it's gonna work out. And yeah, it's been kind of interesting. I was talking to A8, one of the players who played at Worlds a couple weeks ago, who bought a somewhat similar Shaman, slightly different though. And yeah, A8 was really sort of questioning how the deck is going to function and win. It's very reliant on drawing Spell of the Frog to cycle through their deck. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to see if that can get the win. And I think if that deck, that Shaman deck, can get the win, then Durham have a really good chance.
Yeah, certainly. I think he said something along the lines of it was Spirit the Frog and a bunch of bad cards.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. You also spoke to Hunter Ace, and he only gave 2 words to describe the deck, which was a complete sugar honey iced tea. But you know, we'll see. Durham can try and prove that otherwise. But let's take a look at the lists for Birmingham's lineup. They're running, I would say, incredibly standard lists. They're running the Rogue, they're running the Warrior, and then they're running Mage and Hunter, which are typically what people take to go against the Warrior, as the Rogue is what's expected to be banned.
Yeah, it's sort of a strategy where right now the two most dominant decks in the game are Warrior and Rogue by a significant margin. So sort of what both teams have decided to do is they sort of tech for one and ban the other. And in this case, they sort of, although we'll explain later, it did change and shake up a little bit. They both sort of did sort of try and target the Warrior and ban the Rogue. Like none of their lists have Harrison Jones, none of their lists have Acidic Swampoos, just because they wanted to ban the Rogue from the get-go. So yeah, we do see sort of the sort of slightly greedy anti-Warrior list, besides sort of the Shaman, which is a sort of throw in the spanners, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So the decks that have been banned, it's Birmingham's. Was it the Warrior that has been banned away?
Yep.
Yeah, so they will not be able to play the Warrior. And then for Durham, it has been their Rogue that's been banned away. Now, we expected it to be Rogue from both of these teams, but it ended up being the Warrior getting banned away. So Birmingham aren't going to be able to run that. And the reasoning for this, according to Durham, is they saw their Rogue lineup of their opponents and thought, that's greedy. You've got so much tech to play against the Warrior, which we're not even running. We could probably beat that, so we're going to leave it up. But that might prove like a fatal flaw for them because, like you said, they don't have the anti-weapon tech.
Yeah. So the Rogue is that Birmingham has is kind of an interesting one. They have, rather than sort of your sort of standard list of the pirates, the raiding parties, these cards which are so many consider core and strong in the deck, which makes it so powerful. Instead, they sort of follow an approach that Bunny Hopper and Viper introduced in Worlds a couple weeks ago, where they have a miracle sort of rogue package. So they run auctioneers, and yeah, so it's a lot slower, a lot more greedy, and yeah, so because they sort of have this variant, which wasn't really expected, so Durham now thinks, okay, like we know that our shaman is going to be our hardest deck to get a win with. So then we should ban warrior because that's a really bad matchup for our shaman, and then maybe we can sneak a win against this like sort of greedy rogue. Yeah.
So a deck both of these teams are running is that Khadgar Dragon Mage, but we've got a much more greedy variant, I believe, from Birmingham running like Crowd Roasters. I think they got a big game Hunter in that as well. It's a bit more dragon oriented, I guess you would say. So if we do end up seeing a mirror match between those two decks, that's certainly going to be interesting to see. I guess which is the better of the two decks.
Yeah, I was actually like looking on HS3 Play sort of like at individual cards, sort of how good each individual sort of tech card performs in the matchup. So we have like they have Power of Creation, which is sort of like one copy of that, which is really greedy, and it's actually you would expect it to be really good, sort of draw and win rate, but it's actually sort of slightly below average. So although they have a greedier lineup, like Crowd Roaster, for example, is surprisingly low down
Yeah.
on the cards you want to draw in the mirror, just because it does 7 and like all the things you want to kill have 8 health. So it's not. Although they seem like they're going to be slightly favored because they do have this greedy list and sort of a slower matchup. Yeah, it probably won't turn out that way as it sort of evens out, I think, a bit.
So we will be hopping into the game shortly, but lastly we've got the two Hunter lists for both of these teams. And let's see if either of them are running them in this initial match. No, by the looks of things, we've got a rogue into... Oh yeah, we do. We have the Hunter. Right. Quick mulligans coming through from both of these teams here. Seeing this rogue with that questing adventurer. I guess we're going to have to see it try and play some sort of a pseudo Edwin role here at the moment, because that hand isn't... It's not fantastic.
Yeah, so you already sort of see the inconsistency of this deck. Like with a normal rogue, you would have sort of the raiding party to draw your pirates and your proactive plays to help you curve out. Instead, we sort of have these more awkward cards which need to combo with things like questing adventures, sort of awkward just to tempo out by itself compared to a pirate perhaps. Walk the Plank is also a very greedy tech. Pretty much like cards like Walk the Plank is why Durham was okay with leaving this rogue open, because they saw the cards like Walk the Plank there.
Now this Hunter list, this is the bomb variant of Hunter, so it's going to be going quite wide or going very tall, stacking one minion up, getting it nice and magnetized there. Obviously, Rogue is Rogue. This is no surprise to anyone. They're not fantastic at dealing with wide boards. They have very weak board clear, so what Durham's put on play right now, it could be a little bit difficult for them to answer with, especially if that Defender of Argus is able to drop and buff up 2 minions.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting one, because I like to call this personally I like to call this style of mech hunter one big mech, and I always like in chat I just spam one like big clap mech because it's just like whenever you see like a popular streamer or someone playing it, they just make a massive mech and just like jam 15 to face in one go, and like chat is just like easy clap in the chat. So but yeah, in this case it's a bit different because there is cards like Walk the Plank. There are 2 copies of SAP, and so yeah, they do need to sort of be a bit more cautious, and they probably will go wide and not magnetize as much.
Yeah, looking at the hand for Durham, they did just play the 3 mana, and then they've also got the 2 Venomizers in hand, so kind of their removal minions already being drawn very early on, but seeing as their opponent hasn't got that much in play as of until now, and still that's only a 3/3 minion, it's nothing huge. It maybe not the most fantastic draws for this hunter so far.
Yeah, it's looking a bit rough for the hunter. They're just gonna have to play these minions onto the board and hope they get work done. And luckily for them, Cardstones doesn't have sort of the reactive cards they're looking for, like Backstab, SI7 agents, and cards like that. And Cardstones could also just run out of draw here at some point. They could just run out of cards. They might even be forced to Shadow Step the Henchclan Burglar so they don't run out, and then that's a pretty big loss in tempo. So we're sort of seeing it from both sides right now. Both of them are sort of starting to run low on cards, and if neither of them find their card draw, it's going to be interesting, and if they're going to... who's going to take sort of the approach as the aggressor and just like just play all their stuff onto the board and who's going to try and go for the value game plan.
Yeah, so as the hunter, you're probably looking for like an Ursatron around about now, try and get some bodies on board whilst also actually being able to ensure you still have resources available to play. Hearthstone is definitely considering what they want to do here. They've got 2 poisonous minions on the board facing them. Can they actually get rid of both of them in one move whilst keeping that questing adventure alive? I'm not quite sure, so what is the line of play you go for?
I think, yeah, like you said, you can't really kill off both of them and protect your questing. I mean, you can kill both, but you have to sacrifice your questing adventure. So because of that, I wouldn't mind just playing your Henge Clan Burglar and just trying to put some stats onto the board. Are you really, like, you're eviscerating there to kill a 2-2? Like, the 2-2 is just going to trade into your 4-3. Like, maybe they're scared of magnetizing, but I don't think there's really, at this point, anything to be scared of. Maybe turn 6 onwards, it's sort of more valid for them to respect Venomizer that much, because you can magnetize the guy that does 1 damage to everything, and with Poisonous it just blows up the board, and then Cardstoners would be forced to either have like Sap or Walk the Plank to answer it. But yeah, I think that turn maybe Cardstoners would be better just to play Burglar, and they just have a little bit more information and what they can do in future turns as well, because they can see what they discover. Although on the other side of that, maybe they wanted to save this Burglar so they can guarantee play it with Shadow Step, because if they just play into the Venomizer, then that could be sort of their one source of value removed.
Opt not to play the Defender of Argus on that turn. Just going with the hero power. When you're playing, I wouldn't necessarily say it's an aggressive list, but you know, you're not really looking for the late game. Having hero power pass is not something you want to be doing, but unfortunately they will go ahead and play that now. Seeing which of these 3 options they want to go with. I kind of like the Blast Wave, to be honest. It's pretty decent against, I mean, you can sometimes get smaller minions, you know, Goblin Bombs and stuff like that, and it'll deal with those nicely. And if you are able to get that overkill and generate even more spells, that's, you know, that's good value. So I'll have to see. They do select that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like, even though it's maybe going to be a little bit hard to get the value off it, like at the very least they can hit into one of the 0-2s, and oh wow, defenders. I mean, that's pretty surprising to see them concede so quickly like that.
I question that decision.
Yeah, I mean, like, from their perspective, they were in a terrible spot. The Hunter doesn't really have much card draw. Like we said, it is sort of the one big mech version, so they don't have cards like Mechanical Whelp, they don't have Zoljan, so their late game is a lot more limited. But like seeing the Rogue's hand, it was like equally sort of just running out of steam.
They didn't know that, but like you should have been able to tell from the way that they were playing that like they weren't going for anything spectacular, you know, clearly, and maybe not clearly, but like you still just play it out anyways. It's a LAN finals. You play to the end. You look for any win anywhere possible, but they just yeah, they just quit out. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's like they've sort of fought through a very sort of long stage of. Oh, okay. We've just got a word from admin that apparently says some sort of like error in the deck building or something, and apparently there was an illegal card by mistake.
Yeah, I was gonna point it out. Yeah, we can talk about that in a little bit, but we're gonna go to a break whilst we sort this out.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we'll see you in a minute.
We'll be right back.
we're back. So a little bit of a confusion there. Durham were running a list which was not the one they submitted, and so they, they had to forfeit that one, and so now it's going to be 1-0 up for Birmingham.
Yeah, just super accidental. There was like actually several cards that were different. So for example, the Argus that we saw in their hand and the Mossy Horror we saw in their hand, yeah, it wasn't in their deck. So I think they just accidentally somehow built the wrong deck or queued it up. So
Yeah.
bit unfortunate. We have seen it happen before. I think it is mainly due to the fact they are playing as a team of 3. And because of that, sort of one person will make the deck and then give it to the other ones, and sometimes that
They
leads
don't notice
to
it, or
yeah. So
it's unfortunate, but we kind of expected the Rogue to win anyways.
yeah, the Rogue had a lot of better top decks they could find compared to the Hunter in that position. So yeah.
The only issue is now your strategy coming into this was, we're not going to ban the Rogue because we think it's beatable, and now it's already won one game, and I mean, kind of an unfortunate start for Durham. So if they weren't already the underdogs, they kind of are a bit more now.
Yeah.
It's certainly going to be a difficult one for them to try and pull back and win this.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough for sure. Like, because they have to be able to beat, like with the Shaman, they have to beat the. They probably have to try and target the Mage really with the Shaman now, and try and get that matchup. So right now it's sort of like a 50-50 of which deck they want to try and queue into. If they think they're going to queue the Mage first, they want to queue the Shaman. However, if the Mage manages to get a win in for Birmingham, it's devastating for Durham, as it's like going to be really hard for them to get a win with their Shaman then. So it's sort of like a 50-50 now almost, and this is sort of where RNG comes into the card game. Not even in the game itself yet, but just in like the pick and bans. Maybe we'll have some mind games going on, and yeah, should be interesting to see what they choose to go with.
You call it RNG. The players will call it just outsmarting their opponent. When you win rock, paper, scissors, it's because you're the better player. Nothing to do with RNG whatsoever. And also because you went rock every time. No one expects it. It's the best. So yeah, would you queue the Hunter again?
A good friend once told me, if you lose with a deck, queue it again. Yeah, a very competent Hearthstone player told me that.
It's just logical. Like, you need to get the win with the deck anyways at some point in time. And like, if you forget how to, I mean, you're not really going to forget how to pilot it, but you like get it out of the way. If you're going to end up losing 3 times with that deck, then sure, cool.
Yeah, and I mean, the deck we thought they were going to get swept on was the Shaman, not the Hunter. So yeah, it's a little bit ironic if that does end up happening. But yeah, should be interesting. They will have to sort of. Probably what's taking a little bit of time right now is they probably actually are remaking the Hunter to make sure it like matches the deck they submitted. So yeah, we're just sort of waiting for them to do that, and yeah.
Also, I'm not going to lie, I think I prefer the Hunter list which they submitted as opposed to the one they were just playing there. Like, we saw the Defender of Argus was dead, the Mossy Horror was dead, so the 2 cards that they wouldn't have been running if they were running the correct deck wouldn't have been in their hand. Maybe they would have had better stuff, and then maybe it would have been a different game, but that's all in the past. Anyways, actually, we never actually spoke about the Hunter list for Birmingham.
Oh yeah, we can touch on that quickly.
So it's a mid-range Hunter list. You're all familiar with it. I've got beasts. I play beasts. Beasts get big. I win. Go face.
We're very familiar with it from the last expansion. Yeah, that's all we saw. It was definitely the most dominant deck. Of course, now it's a little bit weaker without Rexa. However, there is still sort of the core Masters core, Springpaw, Hyena, Timberwolf sort of combinations working together, just really allowing you to. I think the main part of the deck comes from being able to sort of generate value with Masters Core, but also you get like such solid swing boards back, especially with Unleash the Hound. So you're okay with getting a weak start. You just play Master Score, and then you have all the tools in the world to swing back the board in your favor. Whereas often a mid-range deck wouldn't have access to that as much. So yeah.
Looking at the stats, it's a 52% win rate for the mid-range Hunter, if it was against the Mech Hunter as well, right?
Yeah.
So pretty even. Like, if we were to see the 2 against each other, I think a lot of it would have to come into play of if they're able to do a Scavenging Hyena plus Unleash the Hounds combo, because usually that kind of wins you the game whenever that happens. But we're into the game, and it is that Shaman list, which we are, kind of a bit skeptical about.
Yeah.
But they've got double Thunderhead in in their hand right now, and that is a very strong card for the strategy of play which they're going for, so we'll have to see if that pays off.
Yeah, they queued the sort of the worst matchup. They were hoping to queue into the mage with their shaman, so a bit unfortunate for Durham defenders here. However, I was sort of talking to the players before the match started, and they were sort of telling me how they did think they were slightly favored against the Hunter, although I think the Hunter is slightly favored just because of, like I said, the Unleash the Hounds. Like, even if Durham manages to go really wide on board with the Thunderheads and the Voltaic Burst, the Unleash the Hounds just gonna come back right back at them. So yeah.
Now, this Ancestral Spirit they have in hand, this is for Spirit of the Frog most of the time. Sometimes you can pair it with a Sea Giant, but having spoken with Durham, this is what they would have wanted to replace the Witch's Brew with. They would have preferred to have a second Ancestral Spirit, but I mean, when we were trying to test out the decks, you know, having a bit of a play test the other evening, trying to see if we could get, you know, our heads around it, I don't think the Ancestral Spirit really came in that big for us then, so it's interesting that they'd want to run 2 copies of it.
Yeah, I think it's maybe the fact that tunnel visioning on they have to replace the 2-mana Witch's Brew with another 2-mana spell because of sort of the synergy with the Spirit of the Frog and how that works. However, I don't think it's really necessary. There's already there's already the Soul of the Murloc as a 2-mana spell, so I think you just want sort of more consistent cards you can play by themselves and not necessarily in conjunction with other cards, because it is a deck that has fairly limited card draw if you don't draw Spirit of the Frog. Of course, if you get Spirit of the Frog, you have cards for days, but like you win a lot of the time if you get Spirit of the Frog, so you wanna sort of have your other cards there for if you don't draw Spirit of the Frog, which is just like strong standalone cards you can drop.
So the Thunderhead, well, first of the Thunderheads is getting played here, opting not to use the Deadly Shot here, but instead the Kill command. Do you think that's the right play?
There's arguments for both. I think as the Hunter, you don't necessarily need to save the Kill command in this matchup. Oftentimes, as the Hunter, you want to save it to sort of push the face damage through, but in this matchup, if they win board, they're probably going to win the game, and it's going to be pretty hard for Shaman to get back on board. So I think it's okay using the Kill command there. And they just have 2 copies of it in hand, so saving the Deadly Shot does give them a little bit more flexibility. However, this is a token Shaman essentially, so it's going to be quite rare for there just to be one sort of big minion you want a Deadly Shot. So there's definitely pros and cons, but I can definitely understand sort of keeping their options open by keeping 1 copy of each in hand.
It's a really good card if your opponent has Spirit of the Frog on the field in stealth, and they're just waiting for the next turn to pop off with it. It can actually answer that and prevent that from happening. So perhaps that's what they're trying to play around. But there's no Spirit of the Frog in sight, and you know that Sea Giant. It's a good draw if you have a wide board. And they will be able to make that if they require with the Thunderhead and the Voltaic Bursts, but it's going to be a completely understandable Hex there. I don't think you generally get bigger targets other than a massive Hyena to drop that Hex down onto, so I'm happy with that use.
Yeah, my one sort of question about that play would have been whether they wanted to go face first and actually leave the Frog up, because that's 1 extra token to reduce the cost of the Sea Giant next turn. Obviously it is a beast, so there is some risk with leaving the Frog up, that there may be a Timberwolf or maybe a Leok from Animal Companion comes out, and then the Frog gets an attack and gets to trade off and punishes them a little bit, but just something maybe to consider.
I don't think they would have dire frenzied it or anything like that,
Oh, yeah.
so that's nothing to be concerned about. But Unleash the Beast coming through. The good targets, being able to utilize that rush and then keep your minion on full health, that's pretty nice. They've got both the Farsight and the Haunting Visions here, so what do you think they're looking for? Oh, well, obviously Farsight, you're looking for a Spirit of the Frog, but Haunting Visions, there's not... Is there like a key card which you just love to get off of that right now?
I think against Hunter, your main issue is you can go wide, but then they punish you with Unleash the Hound and clear your board and develop their own with the Hyena. So maybe even a card like Stormbringer or something, the legendary Shaman spell. Like, what's Unleash gonna do against that? A full board of legendary? Sign me up. So yeah, that could be definitely very spicy to see, and maybe it might be necessary to sort of high roll a little bit like that. But yeah, they don't really know what they want right now, so I think just waiting and sort of because they have like a good player to make that sort of fights for the board. Um, so yeah, I think sort of saving the Haunted Visions until they know what spell they want. Maybe they need a Lightning Storm to get back onto the board, or maybe they are ahead on board and then they can take a Bloodlust or Stormbringer. So yeah, just being patient. I do like to see that.
Well, you know, it is always Huffer, and so they do high roll that, and they're able to deal with the Thunderhead even through the Resurrection from the Ancestral Spirit. But there you go. They've got enough mana, they've got enough minions on board. The Sea Giant will come out. The Deadly Shot is going to have really good aim to try and snipe that one away.
You ready for this high roll?
Oh, absolutely. This is what RNG is for. This is what Hearthstone is played for. The absolute, what? Are you kidding me? It could have hit anything but that.
Yeah.
But it did.
Yeah, those swing turns is what you love to see with those big RNG. Maybe not so much as a player necessarily, especially when it's like high stakes. There are prizes on the line here as well as glory. But yeah, right now they are just trying to decide whether they want to, which one they want to trade. There's merit to trading the totem because then it changes the RNG of when you play the hero power in future turns, what totem you're gonna get. Having an extra elemental though can be beneficial because Haunting Visions, you can get the +2/+2 if it's on an elemental, you add an elemental to your hand. So yeah, I think they were just choosing that, but yeah.
Nice.
We do see the card centers just throwing out like a few emotes like here and there, just sprinkling them in. They have been known sort of throughout the split to be a little bit spicy, and yeah, we see them. This is why they're thanking. They get this guaranteed deadly shot, beautiful. Bit unfortunate we didn't get to see some high rolling 50/50s or anything like that, but you know, we got to see some BM. So
if you just look at the player cams in the left corners there, you can see Cardstone is having a bit of a giggle as they pulled that play off, but Durham, they're stern. You know, after having such an unfortunate loss in that first game, they're really just here to play properly, play solidly, see if they can pick up the win. Now, they must use one of these far sights at least, right? Like, if not both of them. See what they draw off of that. That is huge for them.
And the other thing that's really nice about this is the Haunting Visions can oftentimes like
0 mana spell.
Yeah, you can control either 1 mana or 0 mana. Yeah, exactly. And you can manipulate it. Oh, and they do get the Stormbringer as well, and with Soul of the Murloc, and they have a stealth minion on board already that will like guarantee get transformed. Oh, this could get real spicy real quick.
But they don't have any other minions on board though. They're not wide at the moment. They've lost both of their Thunderheads. So how are they going to be able to fill that one up? Going for another fast sight. There's a Voltaic Burst. That's very nice.
Ooh, they're choosing to play it now. I wonder if you want to save it to guarantee with the Stormbringer next turn. Sure, you do give them the Death Hour with the Murloc, and you want to play that 2 mana spell now because then you draw with Spirit of the Frog. So yeah, I guess this is fine. There's a little bit of risk involved here, like potentially these 1/1s could die off and then it's a slightly weaker Stormbringer. They could have been a little bit more patient and have gone for the Totem, the Voltaic Burst and Stormbringer all in one turn.
And they got another Haunting Visions off the top as well, so that means we're going to see another, just a Spirit of the Frog turn once again coming out from them. But the charge from this Tundra Rhino means they're going to be able to deal with those 2 Murlocs. And Goblin Prank is not a fantastic card to get off of that. We'll see if that actually comes in clutch at all, but probably not.
I mean, it can oftentimes, you can play it on a minion that's already on the board and is going to hit face, and just like, it can be the 3 extra damage you need to sort of push through for lethal. Because we do see Cardstone yeah, they are starting to run out cards now, so they are going to start focusing their attention on Durham's face rather than the board. Unless they draw Zul'jin, then maybe things will change a little bit.
Reign of Toads being a good draw. I don't really think there's an answer for the Hunter right now on the board. You know, those tokens aren't 1/1, so even Unleash the Hounds will not be able to deal with that. This Hunter's kind of been a little bit unfortunate having not drawn the Master's Call, so their hand is running low, their engine is kind of just dying out here. Meanwhile, their opponent's Spirit of the Frog, it's there. It's, you know, it's rolling. It is generating cards. It is drawing them for Durham defenders in this deck that we questioned. It looks like it's paying off.
The reason, by the way, they're probably hesitating on playing Reign of Toads is they can't kill the Rhino, or they can kill the Rhino if they use Lightning Bolt in conjunction with their face. However, that means they will be overloaded for 4 next turn, and they're not gonna have. They only have 6 mana, so they won't be able to play their Stormbringer. So there is sort of a little bit of sort of risk doing this, that they're gonna not have a great play next turn. But I think just the massive tempo swing they gain in the immediate future. Oh, and that is the Master School top deck for Hearthstoners. Let's see what it gets for them.
Okay, it's nice. It's not going to immediately deal with the board, but like you said, your opponent is pretty overloaded on the following turn, so you know there's not too much of a threat to deal with right now. Shimmerfly coming down. What spell could that generate that might be able to pull them back into this one?
I think they need to get Unleash the Hounds and top deck a Timberwolf, or an animal companion to summon Leok. Or just Zoljan, I guess. Like they have sort of Zoljan will now summon 2/5/5s. It will draw them a bunch of cards. It will also add another Unleash the Beast to their hand as well. So maybe even just getting like a tracking or something like that off Shimmerfly, or just any cycle spell to try and get close to the Zoljan. Because I think surprisingly they are sort of falling behind quite rapidly here. So they do really need to try and find that Zoljan to swing the board back in their favor, or they're just slowly going to fall further and further behind. And the moment Durham top decks Bloodlust, that could just be sort of game in an instant.
You know, and that's one of those things about the hero cards that are still left in rotation. Everyone knows Doctor Boom is absolutely insane, but Zul'jin, you know, Hunter's maybe a class we don't see quite as much as the Rogue and the Warrior, but Zul'jin's still incredibly powerful, and of course so is Hagatha. But interestingly enough about the Shaman list, they don't actually play it because, you know, when you have tokens on board, you don't really want them getting killed by the 3 damage AoE activation of the Hagatha, so they're not even running their own hero card here, so...
Man, I'm getting excited. The sort of the Murloc pickup. I'm sensing a big Stormbringer coming down soon. There's nothing really Hearthstoners can get here that will be able to allow them to clear off the boards and the Murlocs that come out afterwards. So, I think we might see a bunch of legendaries next turn, and Hearthstoners are really under pressure. The Shimmerfly has to find something amazing for them, and I'm not even sure like what I can think of.
There's the tracking. I mean, none of it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think you have to take the other tracking, just like I said, try and find that Zoljan, cycle through your decks, get the Unleash the Hounds of Zoljan. You need the... You really need the Timberwolf. This Unleash the Hounds isn't gonna do it.
These Reign of Toads tokens are just... They're packing a punch. They're not just 1/1s. They are able to stand the beating that will come through from these Hounds. Let's see what spell's going to be generated off of this.
Let's get the 2-mana spell that resurrects all the beasts that died this turn. Oh, explosive
That's
trap.
not bad.
Yeah, that allows them to, in conjunction with Unleash the Hounds and even Springpaw as well, it does allow them to sort of set up for a situation that denies Durham from going face, and Shaman doesn't have any like mass like board buffs in the sense that it buffs up the health of the minions. So from Hearthstone's perspective, they just put all the minions to 2 health and they're pretty much just safe for the rest of the game, and Shaman can never hit face with his minions. However, we do see Durham Defenders has that Stormbringer, and this plan is not going to work for Hearthstoners.
They also have the Hex as well. They are going all out, putting everything into this Hyena. And it's going to be huge, but it's going to be a frog shortly. They could go for the Stormbringer this turn, but if you low roll, no taunts, you lose. So, unfortunately, I think they're going to have to Hex this one and wait it a turn, probably?
Yeah, I think, I agree for sure. And they're probably just thinking what they want to do with this Hex. You could maybe Witch's Brew yourself a couple times. You might want to try and make your board a little bit more resilient to a second Unleash the Hounds, or even like Zoljan casting Unleash the Hounds could be a little worrying. Especially because there is also an Animal Companion in the spell pool. Like we saw earlier, it did summon the Huffer. So if that summons Leok from the Zoljan and then Unleash the Hounds comes out as well, like that could be pretty problematic for Durham Defenders. So I think that sort of, right now they're in such a dominant position, they're thinking, how do we lose this game? And I think sort of that situation with Zoljan coming out is a way they lose that game. So yeah, they're probably just going to think, what's the best setup against Zul'jin? How can we sort of minimize like throwing the game from this point?
If I'm correct, Hearthstone should probably have known that Hex was in their hands. There's a Spirit of the Frog, and then they played a bunch of 3-mana cards, like Farsight, Haunting Vision. So I think they, maybe they should have known there was the Hex. I'd have to rewatch it, but they kind of had to go for that sort of play, and it's just unfortunate for them. You saw them in the player cams in the bottom left. They're kind of just like, ah, of course, it's a Hex, you know. Of course, we got Huffer earlier on, but
the problem is though is that if you like by forcing the Hex, at least you're forcing your opponent to spend 4 mana.
word.
Oh, they got the Zul'jin! Wait, is Card Sinners back in this? Like, Dome Defenders also very questionably proc the Explosive Trap when they didn't need to. I mean, it is a completely random secret because it is generated from the Shimmerfly, so they're like, okay, it's a completely random secret. Why is the chance it's Explosive Trap? They're probably just bluffing. But oh man, the Zul'jin's picked up. Is this game over for Defenders?
It has to be. Like, how can you answer this? You have nothing on board after this turn. You can't Stormbringer it. The Lava Burst isn't going to kill them. Bloodlust is useless without the minions. And there you have it, the Witch's Brew. Just sat there. Not going to be able to help them.
Yeah, Cardston is
What a top deck, dude. That's insane.
Oh man, Dome Defenders sort of hands covering their faces right now as they're trying to think, like, what are they going to do? If Codstone chooses to play aggressively and go face, could get punished by Stormbringer, but no, it looks like they are just going to play safe and acknowledge they are so far ahead. And yeah, very wisely just simplify the board. They are out of cards though, and they don't have much value left in their hand, so they are required to win with what's on the board. And if Defenders somehow manages to remove this board, they do have Witch's Brew to stabilize afterwards as well. So yeah, this is gonna come right down to the wire. Although,
so you can trade with a Lickham, you can Lava Burst a minion. So you can make it so there's only a 1/1 left on board, but you're gonna get very, very, very low. Of course, you do have that Witch's Brew coming in clutch. Are they going to be able to win this one out on fatigue, though? At 28 health. Let me think. So, 3 turns.
Yeah, they are just choosing...
about 7 turns or something like that, and fatigue they can survive.
Yeah, I mean, at some point the Customers will just run out of cards, and the Dumb Defenders then will have board and just kill them faster. So, I think... right now they don't really have the tools that they need in hand, so they're hoping next turn they top deck something, and then this sort of buys them maybe like a turn or two as well, of like just being able to soak the damage from the board without necessarily have to play reactively. I mean, yeah, Cardstone is just pulling out everything they have, and does Dome Defender still have a copy of, like, do they have anything that can generate random spells? They played both Haunting
yeah,
Visions,
they played both of them, and they
yeah.
don't have board clear in the deck, so I think they need to draw a Rain of Toads off the top here. They've only played one of those, correct?
Yeah, I believe that's right, yeah. But they also have both their Sea Giants still, right? So there's a very good chance they just draw completely dead here. And yeah, they are just facing... Cardstoners has set up exact lethal on board. They have 16 damage with the hero power. Oh, actually, they have +3 from hand with the Goblin Prank as well.
Alright, so they're going to be able to deal with, I think, everything here, right? Lickham, Zap, and Lava Burst.
Yeah, just the 1/1 Hound is going to be left up on the board. Yeah, and unfortunately, they can't lick him into the Hyena first. That's what they would like to do, but they have to overload first. So they will buff the Hyena slightly, so they are forced to take 4 damage from this Hyena, or 4 damage from the Huffer. It doesn't really make a difference.
Doesn't affect them either way. Let's see if they can get the Taunt minion off of hero power. Of course, that would be wonderful. This has been just some fantastic draws in this game from both teams. So back and forth.
Oh, and they get the Taunt.
They get the Taunt.
Well. I don't think it was going to make a difference. Well, actually, no, it would have made a difference because Carstoners were able to push 8 this turn if there was no Taunt there, and then they have 4 damage with the weapon and the hero power on the following turn. So Durham Defenders did, in fact, have to either top deck Taunts here, or they had to roll the Taunt Totem at least once. And they got the Totem, so now they buy themselves 1 extra turn, as we do see...
Are we going to get a Discover a spell off of this?
evolve that can
Okay.
get a taunt maybe.
2 mana taunts. That's not going to be one of them. But
Alright, so Hearthstone is gonna put Dumb Defenders in 2.
wait, they've got the Stormbringer though. For next turn, if these minions don't get cleared out, they can get a taunt off of that, even like regardless of what they draw.
Yeah, but then they're just set to the hero power even if they find the taunt. There's also the explosive trap up, so Dumb Defenders can never really hit face again. Is there any like thing they can get that heals them from Stormbringer?
I don't know. Just play it. Just play it. Hero
Like-
power, play it. Come on.
Yeah, I think like if they know for a fact this is an explosive trap because Zoljan did recast it.
yeah.
Otherwise, Double Bloodlust would have been lethal in the case it was an explosive or freezing trap. But they do know for a fact it's explosive, so they are forced to go for the Stormbringer.
Come on.
I don't think there's
Durham
anything
need
they can
this.
get.
They need to high roll this. I don't know what they could have gotten, but
yeah.
that's it. That's GG. Hearthstone is going to go 2-0 up in this series so far, and that Shaman. Man, that was really rough for them. It looked like they had it, and then the Zoljan top deck.
Man,
I mean,
that was so close as well. That came down like the Zoljan top decked, and it was right down to the wire. There was also the fact they procced the explosive trap when maybe they didn't have to. Then they would have at least had like a few tokens left over, and they could have Stormbringer. Instead, they sort of just had a couple clunky turns, and luckily they were sort of saved because they did get the toads. But oh man, what a game!
Yeah, maybe a tiny bit of a misplay.
By
on
proccing
that aspect,
explosive, yeah,
but
maybe a little bit, yeah.
at the end of the day, that's just Hearthstone for you. That was insane.
Yeah, it's just Zoljan
Because
top
it was
deck, that
tracking
all it was.
into tracking, then into Zoljan as well. So that was like 7 cards away from the top, and they just so happened to get
Yeah.
both the trackings as well.
That's Hearthstone for you, folks.
yeah.
That's Hearthstone.
So there's only one list left for them to run, which would be the Mage.
Yep, they
for
just have to win
Birmingham.
with the Mage now. The Mage is definitely the weakest deck against the Shaman, and it's also quite unfavored. It's actually even more unfavored than Warrior is against Mech Hunter, as Ollie drops his pen
no,
there. But yeah, so the Mage is actually going to be quite hard for them to win. It's unfavored against the Hunter. It's unfavored against the Shaman.
Huh?
Oh, what's happened here? Did
Wait.
they accidentally queue the wrong? Did they queue the wrong deck up again? Oh,
Look, picking the correct deck, it's hard. It's difficult. Sometimes it's a bit of a struggle. You know, I mean, you got some plays where you have to sit there and let it rope through.
yeah.
Because you really got to struggle for that. But I think the bigger difficulty in Hearthstone is picking the right deck.
But there's also the fact
Just
that
pick the right one.
this is these guys' first LAN finals, I expect, at least for Hearthstone. And yeah, I mean, I've played in LAN events myself. It's a bit weird, sort of. You have to adjust to their setup, not your own. So like all the layouts a little bit different. Like I remember I wasn't necessarily stressed for my first sort of match that was streamed in a LAN tournament. It was against Tyler in Oslo. But it was definitely sort of very weird and sort of adjusting to the setup. And yeah, I can understand sort of why they're a bit flustered and accidentally sort of queuing the wrong deck for sure.
The thing about Hearthstone is at least you can like, I mean, it's a game that can literally be played on your mobile phone. There's no settings that you need to tamper with. But we're going to be throwing this one to a break before we do head into game 3. Please stick around. We will see you shortly. And we're back from that break. You know, we're a bit busy listening to some MC Devo. But either way, just to explain why we had the little pause there, there was a scheduled 15-minute break anyways. And then the teams went into the game and were like, oh wait, actually, can we have that break now? So
Yeah.
then,
So it wasn't necessarily, it wasn't Durham accidentally queuing the wrong deck again. It was just they sort of accidentally started, I guess. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so there's like it's still a match point for Birmingham, and Durham still has all three decks left that they have to reverse sweep Birmingham.
yeah, and Birmingham are forced onto their mage list, which we spoke about earlier. It's a bit of a greedier lineup. It's probably oriented more towards the warrior matchup, I guess. Much more dragons in it. Got a spicy Alexstrasza tech, a big game hunter and all that such, and we're probably thinking the hunter is what they're going to run into this.
Yeah, so the hunter is, according to HSV, play 70% favored, so it is going to be an uphill battle for sure for the mage, and yeah, it's just because the mage they don't really have an answer for a wide board besides just trying to play taunts and hoping things don't get through the taunts. But there's cards like Venomizer, there's cards like Deadly Shot, so it is going to be very challenging for the mage to sort of stick a board, and also any sort of just small chip damage the hunter just throws at them with the bombs, with the hero power. The mage is very limited on healing, although there is the tech choice of Alexstrasza, so that could make a difference.
I mean, you said it was 70% favored. I think it's actually 69, but we'll round it up anyways. Yeah, I mean, you got to play around the MC tech, but then you also have to play around the single target removal. So we're looking for them to play around 3 minions, and then of course they've got the Venomizer, they've got the Spider Bomb to deal with the giants.
Yeah. With regards to the hunter, whether they want to magnetize or whether they want to go wide, that is.
Yeah, they got both options, and we're into the game, and that's not a stellar hand for the mage at the moment. That's 2 cards which they're certainly not going to be able to play for a long time. There's no giant. Yeah. There's no Conjurer's Calling.
Yeah, they really want Book of Spectres, Conjurer's Calling, and Giant. That's like all they care about really in this spot. So it is going to be a little bit rough. We see already Dumb Defenders actually have a very difficult choice between Galvanizer and Venomizer. Venomizer, of course, very good against those single threats that cardzowners want to try and stick onto the board, but Galvanizer just really helping to curve out early and get that early pressure going from the get-go.
I think you hold the Venomizer maybe, though it's tempting to play it on 2 for the tempo sake of it, for getting damage into the face, because like we spoke about before, the mage can't heal. It's also one of your outs. Perhaps the Direwolf could be worth playing. I don't think you want to magnetize quite yet, so the mech isn't necessary to get onto the board. You could bomb toss, but I don't know. What would you play here? You're the better player out of us two. So
it's generally like before we discuss whether it is the play or not,
right.
I think it's worth saying that if you do play Venomizer, it's very hard for the mage to deal with it, because like if they try and play a minion like Messenger Raver to contest the Venomizer, it will just get cleaned up with the bomb toss to protect the Venomizer. However, there is double mind control tech which has 3 health, so that would contest the Venomizer quite awkwardly. So I think due to that fact that either some Fury Protector or mind control tech could come down and force, like, sort of make the Venomizer useless and not be able to kill a future threat.
Oh, Conjurer's Calling is going to be discarded by the Book of Spectres. The draws were relatively decent. Again, even more dragons in this hand. This is looking much more like a dragon mage than anything else right now, that's for sure. Twilight, Drake, it'll be decent to play onto 4, but here we see there's, again, quite a few options for this hunter to go with. I kind of like playing Spider Bomb on its own rather than magnetizing it.
Yeah, they might even be debating whether they want to play Spider Bomb at all right now. Because there is Scale Worm. I definitely think you don't magnetize because there are double Scale Worm, and that gets massively punished if you do magnetize. But they may even be hesitant to play Spider Bomb separately because you can still, like, cardzowners can still trade Scale Worm into it, and Spider Bomb is so invaluable in the future, especially if you can get something to proc the death roll, and on the turn you play it to guarantee that value. But they are choosing to play it, and they're choosing to magnetize as well. Oh man, this is wonderful news for cardzowners.
Greedy play. and it's going to be punished. They had a solid start to this one, but we spoke about it. It's better to go wide. Thank you being emoted from Cardstone as they are.
They are happy.
I mean,
yeah.
they're 2-0 up right now. They have, you know, the leniency to be able to be a little bit BM with their opponents. And now they're in a pretty solid position with all those cards in hand. Still not a giant and not a Conjurer's Calling. In fact, only having one left in the deck. But either way, still sitting pretty decent. Another book.
Yeah, I think if you play it, you do go up to 10 cards, which means if you do draw a giant and don't discard any more spells, you would actually be able to play the giant straight away. However, there is some concern about the Venomizer, of course, if you play the giant or the Deadly Shot. And then there's a chance you don't draw it, and then you have 3 mana left over, which is kind of awkward to use. So yeah, I do like just playing the Twilight Drake here. It will bait the Venomizer or the Deadly Shot if it is available. And it's also just sort of the safer, more secure option.
Now, they could use the Venomizer right now to try and deal with this Twilight Drake. It kind of says, yeah, our opponents don't have giants, so we probably don't need to actually hold this removal for it. You know, of course, they would have obviously opted to play that on turn 4, let alone turn 5. So there you go. They're going to go for the Venomizer. So now they don't have an out in their hand if a giant is played, but making sure they sit at around that 3 minion lineup, not going into 4, making sure to play around that mind control tech. None of these are fantastic.
Yeah, these are definitely not great. The Fireball doesn't really do anything. I mean, you can use it as removal. I think you take Ray of Frost though, because again, Durham defenders only really want to play 3 minions. That's like the sweet spot for Durham, is having 3 minions, and oftentimes one of them is going to be relatively weak, and only 1 or 2 of them will be strong. So Ray of Frost should be able to just delay the game, and the longer the game goes on for, definitely the better it is for Cardstoners. Oh, they're actually choosing to play it already. I was thinking maybe you hold. Oh, they're just going to use it to kill. I was thinking maybe it's actually better to use it for the freeze effect, especially because Durham needs to magnetize to stay at 3 minions, but
filling up the hand with the Wicker Spectres means they do actually get a good Astromancer play on the next turn if they opt to go for it, if they feel like, you know, there's not too much on board for them to immediately deal with. Of course, you'd prefer to be able to have Khadgar out on the field and get even more minions, but, you know, you're trying to work with the mana that you have, and you still have the second Astromancer if you do feel that is the play that is needed to go for. Now, Durham, they've got options. Once again, you know, they got a bunch of mechs in hand. Which one do I want to play? Of course, you still only want to have 3 minions on board.
I think, though, it does come to a point where you can just play into Mind Control Tech, because we are getting onto the sort of the higher mana stages of the game. So Cardstone no longer really want to use their mana to play Mind Control Tech. They have much better lines they want to go for. So I think at some point it is fine for Durham just to pull the trigger and just go wide. And yeah, this is like a fairly greedy mage from Cardstoners, so they don't have cards like Rabble Bouncers, which also normally is the punish for wide boards. They don't have Mossy Horror, so yeah, I think it's just fine to pull the trigger now, go wide, and start pushing damage. Like I said, Cardstoners has very limited healing, and even if they do play a card like Alexstrasza, they're not dealing with the board when they do that, and it is just even 2 turns away right now.
Ziliax would have been a very, very nice draw, but they're not going to be seeing that. 10 health on board. There's certainly lethal available for Durham defenders right now. We said Hunter is favoured in this matchup, and it does look like they're probably going to be able to pick up their first win of the game here. If they do go for the MC Tech, cool, they deal with 1 minion. Doesn't really matter which one they get. Preferably you want the Goblin Bomb, of course, because that's extra face damage, but
yeah, I don't think the Mind Control Tech, though, is really a winning line. Like, you play this, you'll stay alive for 1 extra turn, then you'll just die. Maybe sometimes you steal the bomb and then you get Ziliax, and Ziliax plus the bomb maybe is just enough to keep you in the game. But I was also curious as to whether you go for Astromancer there, you try and high roll a bit, like a big beefy taunt or something like that. And maybe that's more of a winning line, because then your taunt deals with their board, and then you have like the 5/5 body left over, which if you top deck Conjurer's Calling, you can sort of try and set up sort of like a swing lethal back at them, and then you probably will only get Ziliax regardless of whatever play you go for. So just setting yourself up to win the most when you do draw that Ziliax. But they did get sort of rewarded. They did steal the mech, which will be good if they draw Ziliax.
Good, yeah. Good eye roll there. Leaving the Direwolf Alpha up. Happy to play the Khadgar. I mean, you expect they're going to be going for face anyways, but there you have it. The Leroy was sat in hand, and that means we're going to get the first victory for Durham Defenders in this best-of-5 series. We're going to see more than just 3 games. That's very nice for them. That will be the first match in their attempt at a reverse sweep.
Yeah, and is this the comeback we're looking for? Is this Durham's time to shine and sweep the Mage? Mage was the best performing deck at Worlds a couple weeks ago in Conquest, so it would be a little bit of a surprise to see it get reverse swept here, especially like, it's actually the one matchup that the Shaman is so like you could cool maybe favorable against. Like the other ones, like no chance. But yeah, so it's gonna be actually, I think it is gonna be like, even though they did have this big lead coming into it, it's almost, I would dare to say, an uphill battle for a Birmingham. Although there is the mirror match at the end, which is the mirror match. We'll talk a bit more about when it gets onto it, but it's a very RNG heavy. There's not much skill to it at all. It's whoever gets the first giant down and can conjures cooling that often wins the game because there's not much comeback mechanics. So yeah.
Certainly. So you're predicting it's going to be the Shaman that they run now. It's not. They're not going to opt for the Mage versus Mage.
Yeah,
instantly.
I mean, it depends a little bit. Players have different mentalities. Some like getting the harder matchups out of the way first. Especially the case so in like tournaments that last over a couple days and you play long Swiss rounds, which isn't the case here. But then fatigue becomes a factor, so you have to win with all your decks anyway. So you play your worst matchup first to get it over and done with. But in this case, yeah, I do think they will play that Shaman because it's slightly more favorable, and you just want to maximize airtime. You know, it's not every day you get this opportunity to play on stream.
There you have it. Jumping into game 4. No break on this one. Going straight into it. Okay, so we've got the Khadgar and we've got the Conjurers calling in this Mage's hand. If they were able to round this out with a Giant, especially whilst having the coin, that could be a phenomenal start for Cardstoneers. On the other side of the board, though, Durham Defenders, they have their Spirit of the Frog, and that's probably the best card to have in your hand when paired with a 0 mana spell or a 1 mana.
Yeah, not only that, but it's very, very difficult for Mage to kill. Like, just as even without the stuff, just like Spell the Frog a turn later when it's a 0/3, the only way they can really kill it off is with the Scale Worm. So they could just go Spell the Frog into Thunderhead Zap to like deal with whatever sort of, if Cardstoneers does play some sort of small 3-drop minion, and then their Spell the Frog as a 0/3 will most likely stick. And then they have like the Spirit Force sticking, they have the 1 mana spell they draw off the zap, and they can just change. So this is a very, very nice hand for defenders for sure.
Cardstoneers don't have a dragon in hand either, so the Fire Tree Witch Doctor, it's not active. The battle cry will not be played, but opting to play that.
That's incredible.
Do you agree with that line of play?
The downside of it is mostly the fact that you're sort of emptying your hand out. I think that's the biggest downside. The upside, of course, you do get a minion onto the board, but the Lickham is just going to clean it up. It's actually a zap target as well, which they are giving their opponents. Like, they could have denied the zap target. Of course, they don't, like, we have Castle Visions. We know there's these cards. What was that ooh there about? Why are you looking at her?
It's board clear, right? This Mage deck, one of the issues with it is it's not able to run spells because Book of Spectres will just discard it most of the time. Of course, they go with the Conjurer's Calling, but they try to minimize it. But they've actually got technically 2 options here for board clear, if you will. Flame Strike, obviously amazing for dealing with a very wide board, but at least earlier on in the game, you're probably looking at 1/1 elementals. So kind of Cold isn't terrible into it, and kind of I would go for the Flame Strike. I don't think your opponent presents enough of an early threat to deal with it, but then again, you're the legend player and I'm not, so what would you go for?
I think you can probably get away with taking the Flame Strike. Spellbinder is also a consideration as well, because it could get rid of the Hex. That could come down onto a Giant or something like that. But yeah, I think I do like the Flame Strike. The Kernel Code is just not impactful enough, I think, for 4 mana. Oh, that's... Oh man, I mean, they don't have to play Thunderhead here. They could just like pop off with like all these spells in hand. It's pretty close. Thunderhead Zap or it's actually really close. I think I do like the Thunderhead still. I think I'm more inclined to go for the Thunderhead because then your opponent, like I said, they can only clear with Scale Worm, and they don't have, you do know they have a dragon in hand now because they did. The second one did discover a Flame Strike.
But they only have one dragon in hand.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, no, but Scale Worm's a beast. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's fine. But the reason it's like good is because they really want to trade Scale Worm into both the Spill of the Frog and the Thunderhead, and you sort of force them to choose one or the other by playing the Thunderhead. Otherwise, they can just straight into the Spill of the Frog. You have a few 1/1s, but what your 1/1's really gonna do right now, like your hand doesn't support having a couple 1/1s onto the board. So yeah, I do like the Thunderhead. And like I said before, it's really hard to kill the Spill of the Frog off. So even though like it's just a 0-3 on board, it's going to be quite challenging for Hearthstoners to deal with it.
They could, on the following turn, have such a wide board paired with Soul of the Murloc, and then all they need from then on is like, I mean, Bloodlust would just kind of seal the game for them at that point, really. Voodoo Doll, Voodoo Doll coin Hero Power, that just feels so weak.
I don't know if they're gonna coin. They might just Voodoo Doll and pass. And make it's a little bit risky because your opponent has has access to a ton of Overload cards because of Spill of the Frog. So yeah, I think you do have to ping it because of that. Because you have information because of Spill of the Frog. But oh man, yeah, this is really rough now. And also just worth noting that Dumb Defenders, they traded the 1/1 into the 2/2 to play around Mind Control tech. The previous turn, so that very heads up play from them there.
They're gonna go all out now. Pretty typical for them, and even top decking something like the Dragon Ball Scorcher will not be able to deal with this because they have the Soul of the Murloc in play. This is definitely a rough situation for Mage to be in right now. They just need to hope that their opponent does not get that Bloodlust, but having the Hex in hand means if you play anything that's a Hex target, Spirit of the Frog will guarantee the Bloodlust over to them, which is why we were talking about it before, and we're going to continue to talk about it. This deck is Spirit of the Frog. That's all it is. Like,
yeah, it really is, and it has been. Dumb Defenders have been a bit fortunate that they did find this great draw. And also, Hearthstone is that they haven't found Vocal Spectres, they haven't found John. They're really struggling right now. Yeah, no Dragon Ball Scorcher either. Like, Hearthstoners are definitely being dealt a rough hand here, and I don't know how they're gonna recover. Like, Dumb Defenders could even just hex this Mind Control tech. I feel like they're in that good a spot. At the same time, though, they do only have 4 minions, which isn't gonna. 4 minions isn't that great of a Bloodlust board.
No.
So, like, they could play Soul of the Forest as well and trade off to generate more tokens.
Yeah.
But then they could play a little bit too hard into Dragon Ball Scorcher, so maybe they trade a couple first and give some of them Death Roll and use some of them to multiply the board. Yeah, it's...
You could YOLO it with the Farsight if you wanted to. I don't think that's the right line of play, but it could be something that they opt to go for.
So what do the spells that they play draw? So like we discussed, Hex draws Bloodlust. Soul of the Forest will draw either a Farsight. Oh yeah, Soul of the Murloc. Yeah, my bad.
It's either Farsight or Haunting Vision.
Yep, that's correct. And then Farsight will draw the second Hex, which they don't really need right now. So yeah, they are gonna go for Spill the Murlocs, and yeah, they're not choosing to sort of try and go wider on the board. They feel like 5 tokens is probably fine.
That's plenty, and getting the Taunt minion as well.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice.
Okay, so they do trade one off here, because if Hearthstoners plays Dragon Ball Scorcher, it actually increases the number of minions Dumb Defenders have on board, because 2 of those 1/1s that die will actually summon 2 1/1 Murlocs from them. So yeah, this is a very good, like I was saying, sort of doing a mixture of things. And yeah, like, Hearthstoners have Khadgar Chondras, but like they have no minion on board. They need to transfer for Flame Strike next turn is what they really need to do. And how they go about that is, do they play Chondra's Cooling, do you think, on one of the 1/1s, so they remove the Death Roll to make Flame Strike a little bit better?
This is a poo-poo hand, that's for sure. That's the polite way of putting it, I guess.
hero power onto one of the Murlocs. They're just in such a rough situation right now. On what do you top deck here? You know, there's no Zul'jin that can just pull you out of this one.
Yeah, so key cards is like the Dragon Maw Scorcher. Like these tokens aren't threatening though. It's very key to note.
No.
So they can take. They don't have to remove it all in one turn. They can take a couple turns to remove them all. So, for example, they can go like Dragon Maw Scorcher into Flame Strike, for example. They don't like it's fine that a few 1/1s there, or even the board gets wider for a turn. I think that's okay. So yeah, playing Khadgar here, yeah, I think it's okay, right? They're not really realistically going to find value from this. The hand isn't big enough that they have mana to play Giant plus Khadgar plus Cooling all in the same turn.
Right. Two good options. I think Voltaic Burst is probably better, unless you are just looking to go face now, in which case Rockbite is an extra 3 damage. But at the end of the day, you know, you're a deck that tries to go wide, so they're going to opt into the Voltaic Burst. Now, Ancestral Spirit here, they've said they really like using it onto their Spirit of the Frog, so that's an option. Totemic Smash going for there.
It's face damage, right?
It is face damage.
Yeah, Totemic Smash.
But then why not go for the Rockbiter on the previous turn?
That's a good point. I think though it's a bit different though, right? Because Voltaic Burst is like 1 mana is quite flexible, whereas Rockbiter is a little bit more clunky.
Ooh. They're playing into the Flame Strike by the looks of things. Well, it could be any sort of board clear, I guess, but using the Ancestral Spirit onto the Murloc instead of using it on their Spirit of the Frog there.
I guess, I mean, Spirit of the Frog is useless now, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
But a 0/3 I think is still more valuable than a 1/1 for sure. So, hovering there, the meteorologist.
Now that's a spicy tech. Don't know. I don't think it's going to pay off for them.
Yeah, it's gonna only cost 6 missiles here, so it's basically Dynamatic. You can think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you want a Flame Strike, right? Your opponent has a bunch of 1/1s, but the thing is, their board is actually full. They can't play anything. But you know they have Bloodlust in hand, so you can't go for the Flame Strike because you're dead to Bloodlust guaranteed.
No. So almost do nothing. Like.
But you're just dead to the board right now, right? There's 3, and then you have plus 15.
So
and
press
then
the red button in the bottom right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a situation where they are forced to concede. As I don't think there's anything they can do here, due to the fact they do know there's Lightning Storms in hand for sure. They do know that there's Bloodlust in hand for sure. And yeah, Flame Strike, like it's good because it fills up the board and denies defenders from developing. However, of course, there is the Bloodlust, and casters know that, and they say they're well played. And we're gonna go to a game 5. The Shaman wins, and it's gonna be a Mage Mirror.
Blah, blah, blah. Is what Durham will be saying as they do pick up that win. Starting off this series with the unfortunate wrong deck, forfeiting and then losing the second game. They've now set it up to go to game 5 in this series, potentially seeing a reverse sweep. This is fantastic. Fantastic for Durham.
And yeah, I mean, like I said, this can go either way.
We've got the game 5.
The Mage is such, it's like up in the air of who can like who wins. It's so much who's on coin. If you're on coin, then you go play Giant 1 turn earlier. However, the Book of Spectres can change that slightly. You might not even draw Giant. I've seen games where neither player draw Giants and it just becomes a super long grind fest, almost going to fatigue, which is really weird to think about, but that can happen.
Have Birmingham even drawn Giant yet?
I think they did once. Yeah, I think they did draw it once, but I think it was too expensive for them to play.
So it's just been really unfortunate.
Yeah,
for them so far.
and the Book of Spectres, they've only had it once, and it discarded Conjurer's Cooling, and they weren't on coin, so it was less effective as well. Yeah, it's maybe.
It's kind of rough.
I mean, they only need to be lucky once. They have. This is like the advantage they made for themselves. They had 3 chances. So is this the time?
Is this the time? The big game hunter in the next game. That is a spicy bit of tech in Birmingham's mage list. They've not drawn it yet. Maybe that's what comes in clutch. I mean,
Yeah, the
They-
deck lists are quite different.
Yeah.
However, like I said earlier at the start of the stream, they do sort of balance out. But yeah, the double rebel bounce is quite detrimental to them. Although sometimes it does stick and it's 7 mana, so it's fine to play Conjurer's Cooling onto. But it is like on H3 play the lowest drawn win rate in the mirror matchup. So and then on the other side there is the big game hunter. So yeah,
And the crowd roasters as well.
yeah,
Those are probably going to be pretty effective. They've practically been dead in hand thus far.
Yep.
In those previous 2 games. I mean it's all to play for here. Both teams can win this. This is, I mean, would you say you expected it to go to game 5 coming into this? Well, you did. I did get a
yes,
prediction
I
from
did.
you. It was along the lines of they're both going to ban Rogue. This is going to happen. This is going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Then Birmingham's going to reverse sweep
It-
it.
it-
Well, it's completely the opposite.
Yeah, it didn't go the way I expected at all. However, it did come down to a game 5, and I did say it would come down to the Mage Mirror.
You did.
I
you
did say
you
that.
did.
So I got that part right, and I got it would come to best of 5, but everything else has been completely different. So yeah.
There's so many twists and turns with it.
Yeah.
It's a bit like. Once again, I just want to reiterate, like Durham coming into this, they were looking to play upset and then going down 2-0. Imagine your mental,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, being in a foreign land, you know.
Yeah, especially. Yeah, okay. Anyways, we are gonna jump to a short break now. But we'll be back with a final soon. So yeah, thanks. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back shortly for the last match of the day.
the short break is finally over. We're
Finally.
here, Game 5. And Birmingham are looking like they're about to be reverse sweeped. The only thing we can talk about now is the mentality of these players. You've been in this situation before, Sir Salty. What is it like going into Game 5, about to get reverse sweeped?
Yeah, I have. It wasn't on stream, but it was in the semi-finals at Oslo against Kallax. Like if I won that, I was gonna play against Justin. I would get like a considerable more amount like points and money. So it was definitely like, I mean, it felt awful. Like straight up. I think going into the third, like the fifth game, I don't know. Like I can't even like remember all the plays and lines. I think I'm not sure I played badly, but I think there definitely was a lack of focus there. I wouldn't say I was tilted, but I think inevitably you do start like focusing on other things and you lose concentration. And I think maybe not necessarily they're feeling flustered or stressed, but more just it's hard to stay focused. But I think due to the fact there's 3 of them, they should be able to work together to stay focused. So hopefully it will be a good game. And I think also it's worth mentioning, like, unfortunately this matchup isn't necessarily about who plays better a lot of the time. It is just who gets the Giants down on board, as we've like emphasized so many times already. So yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately it felt like for these last 2 games, honestly, Birmingham, they couldn't do much.
Yeah.
They kind of just got, a bit screwed over by their draws, and once again that will just be the case in this game, very likely, unless both teams are able to draw very similar, and then it's just who is the better team. But we'll have to see. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bet on Durham for this one. I think they have the more standard lineup, a little bit less tech in it, and I think it's less likely for them to draw badly like Birmingham already have in the previous 2 games.
Alright, I'm going to disagree with you then.
Okay,
I'm going to say Birmingham, they're going to get their act together. I mean, like we said, there was nothing they could do though. But I think the big game hunter is going to come in clutch, clear up the Giant. And then because of that, there's going to be one slightly weak turn from Durham, which will allow Birmingham to explode onto the board and take the game. But I mean, we're just like
it's
coin tossing right now. Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, completely. Would you say one of these teams has necessarily played better than the other though? Because I think a lot of it is just kind of come down to RNG this evening.
I mean, I feel like Hearthstoners haven't had the opportunity to show their skill as much. The play overall has been pretty solid, but I don't think there was many sort of critical decisions for them to make. It's been very draw dependent from them. So because of that, there has been a couple of small mistakes from Durham defenders, like hitting into the explosive trap, perhaps. But yeah, we are finally underway, and looking at the hands, neither team has Book of Spectres, neither team has Giant, neither team has Conjurer's Calling.
But I think Durham has a little bit more tools to work with. They at least have the Twilight Strike, they have the Messenger's Raven, and they also have the Witch Tree Doctor here on turn 2. So looking at those options, counter spells not that bad if you think your opponent's going to be able to go for a Conjurer's Calling play.
Yeah, I think Ray of Frost can also be pretty good because it does freeze the minions, but that doesn't kill them. And by freezing minions, your opponent can still just play Conjurer's Calling on them. So it doesn't really help you get bored. There are situations where maybe you both make big boards, and then with the freeze it's relevant. But yeah, I think I just like the counter spell. Yeah, it's just for the Conjurer's Calling, right? It's a little bit iffy, and I did hesitate there due to the fact that they already have a turn 3 player, they already have a turn 4 play. How are they going to fit this counter spell in, really? But I think it's still good. Like, there's also the power of creation on Hearthstone's side, so they could maybe play the counter spell into Hearthstone's turn 8. So yeah, just a solid pick.
I'm going to coin out the Twilight Drake there, since they have 2 of them, utilizing 2 cards in hand, so it's not the healthiest Twilight Drake, but it's still a 4/7 on board. And the Scale Worm isn't going to be able to deal with that, but that's likely to be the play here for Hearthstoners. And once again, the draws, they're just not, you want the turn 4 Giant. And hey, at least Durham don't have that, but they at least have, a compensation to it. They have the second best thing you could do, likely, with the Twilight Drake. In fact, they have 2 of them. So once again, already in just a rough position based off of these draws.
Yeah, I mean, if they do play the Scale Worm, it does mean if they top deck Mountain Giant, they won't be able to play the Mountain Giant anymore because they won't have enough cards in hand. So because of that, they may opt to go for the Witch Tree Doctor and just be a little bit optimistic. because they are starting to fall behind here. The hand is fairly weak. I think they do need to sort of high roll a little bit. Especially because they're probably very scared of their opponent's hand. If they play Scale Worm, the Twilight Drake could just trade in and Conjurer's Cooling could come down on the Twilight Drake after it's taken a value trade. I mean, you'll probably value trade the Scale Worm into the 2/2 first, so it won't be the end of the world for you, but okay. So they're choosing to be a bit more pessimistic, I guess. Maybe a bit more realistic.
Okay, Khadgar, I mean, we've got it in both hands for both these teams now. There's no Conjurer's Calling. Let's see what they want to go with.
So the Scale Worm does put a 5/4 onto the board, which is pretty good, and they can trade the Twilight Drake off. The Keysmith though as well, you can get Splitting Image, which is really good.
Or a Spellbinder as well.
Yeah, that's like, there's only one spell that targets, and that is your Conjurer's Cooling. So not only are you denying it from going onto their guy, you also get 2 1-drops yourself, because it does cast onto the 1-mana 1/3 that gets summoned. However, the Twin Spell does still go off, so it's not like amazing, but it is still sort of, it buys you 1 extra turn, I guess. So
The thing is, since they have the counter spell already, do you actually want to play with that? I think you go Spellbender, and then when they opt to go for the second Conjurer's Calling, you have the counter spell ready for it, and then they get no uses out of either. And I believe that's the option that they went with there. Of course, they could use the Witch Doctor to maybe generate another targeting card to try and clear that secret, but playing a 2-cost means I guess they also have to play the 3-cost, and there's not really like the trade here with the Scale Worm just seems a little bit awkward as well.
You might even want to play Voodoo Doll here, because you also play a Mirror Entity that way. Which would treat Doctor also does that though. Yeah, I think I agree. The Voodoo Doll just isn't quite good enough here, so probably just going to play the Messenger Raven with the 2/2 and just try and get a bit of stats on board. Maybe you can find the Book of Spectres off this as well, which unfortunately they don't though. But actually, yeah, just both hands being very weak right now, and it is looking like it's going to start grinding out and going to the long game.
I think if it does reach the later stages, we probably do favour Hearthstone. If nothing really happens until that turn 7, Astromancer is a good swing, and so is Crowd Roaster. If it is getting a nice value trade off with its Battle Cry, but yeah, putting a 5/2 into a 2/2, it just feels so awful to do. But that is Conjurer's Calling coming through with the Khadgar in hand. On turn 5, they can play both of those onto this Twilight Drake.
However, there is the Spellbender there, so it's not going to work out for them. And if it's a counterspell as well, it's pretty bad. So I wouldn't be. They might go to play counterspell here first to test for counterspell. And when they see it's Spellbinder, it's going to be a little bit awkward. But they could also just play Scale Worm, I guess, and they'd take the value trade.
They'd love to have turn 6 right now in terms of mana. So, you know what? Let's just stall it out till then. We'll drop the Scale Worm, and we'll just trade into that one.
Yeah, I think I do prefer this, because if you play Counterspell, you're only testing for Counterspell. You're not also testing for Spellbender, so it doesn't necessarily even help you set up for future turns. So yeah, I do like the Scale Worm here, because even though it's less likely to help you set up for future turns, at least it is pulling some pressure onto the board and developing that 5/2.
Zodiacs. Nice. We spoke about it before. This is basically the only heal for these mage lists, right? I think this is where you go with the. Do you counterspell then Conjurers or Conjurers? Since they have the Spellbinder in play, you can't see it right now, but there's a Spellbinder for Durham Defenders as well. I don't think you want to play the counterspell quite yet. Oh, okay.
I mean, playing Conjurer's Calling on a 4-drop isn't even that good. You have to realize you don't want to get carried away, and like they can be patient. They're sort of ahead on board right now. They are the ones putting pressure. I really don't think. I think we're sort of getting a bit ahead of ourselves here and thinking, okay, they need to fight aggressively for board, but like they're doing fine right now. They just need to keep the board fairly even and try and draw a better minion to play Conjurer's Calling, and then at that point you can start trying to force it out and proc the secret.
I mean, I guess that obviously there is the advantage to just having the bigger board, because these lists, like we said, don't really have that much removal, if any. They kind of have to generate it randomly. But yeah, value is also, you know, it's a key word in this matchup. But it's reached turn 7 now, and talking of value, that Astromancer, I feel like that's the logical play to go for here. But maybe they just want to even out the board for themselves, stall a little bit longer. They could, of course, go for the Scale Worm plus the Messenger Raven combo instead. That will actually clear the board, so...
Cause there's also like the fear of splitting image, right? That counter spell they played could also be a splitting image. So, like, playing Scale Worm does play into that pretty heavily, and it is risky. And if it does pay off and it's not splitting image, and it is what maybe you expect to be counterspell and spellbender, then like best case scenario, and the Scale Worm does work out. It's not even that good for them, right? It's not really much of a plus side. So I think just playing the Astromancer is fine. You do force your opponent to trade into you to respect Conjure Schooling, although they have the secret, so maybe not immediately, but at some point. Okay, looks like they... Okay, yeah, they're choosing trade into the Raven, take the VT. It does die to hero power, but this way it sort of denies Astromancer, right? Which is the expected, the strongest turn 7 play. And if you force a ping, then they only have 5 mana left. And they've had 5 and 6 mana for 2 turns now. I didn't really do much with that mana, so you know their hand is kind of weak.
So a couple of things that happen there. The options for the Messenger Raven, they're all terrible based around spells in a deck that doesn't really utilize that many spells. And then the Dragon Maw Scorcher coming off as the top deck. Once again, Durham Defenders, they're the ones in the aggressive position. They have control of the board right now. Astromancer is going to come out. What does it get? 5/6. Stats are stats.
Yeah, it's a little underwhelming for a 6 drop maybe, but like you probably would have liked it to have 6 attacks, so it did threaten the Dragon Maw Scorcher. So a little bit underwhelming, but like I said, this is what happens when neither draw book or specters or giant. It just sort of grinds out, and it's gonna be interesting because it's so awkward. Like both teams have secrets up, and neither team have any way to proc the secrets. So like you have the counterspell denying the power of creation, and also they even have the spellbender, which you can't see because it's hidden at the top of the portrait, but for a future Conjurer's Calling. And then Cardstoneers themselves also have a spellbender up. Because of that, I think Durham Defenders will just go for Astromancer here, because they lose too much tempo if they try and proc the secrets on this turn. So I do think they'll just try and put their own stats onto the board, although they could be a little bit greedy, and if they wait one more turn, they're going to play Cadka with the Astromancer in the same turn. But yeah, they're
Interesting. Okay. Trying to keep this matchup as even as possible.
Yeah, we see some laughs coming from Durham Defenders actually as the Saboteur does get pulled out and they mirror their opponents.
Alright, Khadgar Astromancer. It's an option. Crowd Roaster will remove any of these nice and healthy minions.
I wonder.
Seem to be leaning towards that play by the looks of things. It was a nice top deck into the Twilight Drake there as well, right? Because otherwise Crowd Roaster wasn't live. Though they still, of course, had other lines of play. It's just finally they're the ones with a minion on board.
Yeah, they know their opponent is... They had 2 draws where they could have potentially found a proactive play. They know the rest of the hand is pretty much dead. So, yeah, I think it is fine just to remove the board there. They don't necessarily need to fight board by just putting more stacks onto the board in that spot. I do think this is completely fine from them. And yeah, we do see Durham Defenders, because they did whiff their 2 top decks, which were their 2 potential draws for proactive plays. Durham Defenders now are really in quite an awkward spot, and yeah, they're just going to have to play this very weak Ziliax, which is going to allow Cardstoners to develop proactively themselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, this Caligos is going to have to find some great spell, I think.
Let's think about what it could potentially find. We probably want a single target spell to try and pop the Spellbinder.
But on the flip side, maybe you, rather than removing the Spellbender, you need to try and gain tempo back a bit with Caligo, so you need to find something that isn't single target removal. Because I do expect Hearthstone here to go Khadgar plus the Astromancer, which is going to be a ton of pressure onto the board. They are thinking about it though. What's the alternatives here they're looking at maybe?
Hero power to face pass.
Yeah.
I
For
mean,
some
it
reason
is
I
an
don't doubt that a
alternative.
little bit. Maybe are they thinking about Scorcher Drake? The problem with not playing Astromancer this turn is they're playing other cards from the hand, and the hand size is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and which will make the Astromancer in future turns a lot weaker until they do draw the Book of Spectres, of course. But there's a counter spell up, so the Book of Spectres isn't even going to go off necessarily. I don't know how I feel about this. I really wanted to go Khadgar plus Astromancer though.
There you go. They're also playing the Sorcerer here just to have something on board, I guess.
Alright.
It's going to be a Caligos regardless. It's turn 10. Let's see what they generate.
Oh, they got a Pyroblast! Are they going to ship that 10 damage to face?
I mean, that is the best card in most circumstances you can get off of Caligos, honestly, and they're gonna take it.
Oh, they're going face. They're going to put Cardstoneers to 10 health. Cardstoneers saying thank you, but they are like worried. They look quite worried, and they're sort of, you can see them like disgusting and like leaning back in their chairs. The thing is, though, Dome Defenders doesn't really have any burst from hand.
No. Is there an easy? Yeah. Okay. So they got the Voodoo Doll. Okay. So Galagos is gone, but I mean, he kind of did his job.
I
10
mean, there's
damage
just
to
this
face.
4/12 on the board as well, though. And like I was saying, this Astromancer is just becoming completely useless.
Yeah. Yeah, they're gonna deal with that nice and handily. 12 health though. Cardstoneers, they do run the Alexstrasza, so they can make some sort of benefit off of that if they were in a top deck situation, I guess. All that Fire Tree Witch Doctor. Got no dragons to actually activate the battle cry, so they're not able to try and fish for a spell to deny the secret from their opponents.
Oh man, this is so awkward. Just both Book of Spectres, both Giants, bottom of the deck for both teams. Dumb Defenders, I think Dumb Defenders need to, like, the thing is, like, you want to sell up for, like, worst case scenario, which is Cardstoneers maybe drawing Book of Spectres into Giant or something like that. Or even, they could even Alexstrasza your face and start killing you as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Yeah, if Cardstoneers top deck Alexstrasza here, they're going to push 7 to face after putting their opponents to 15, putting them at 8 health. So even though you really don't want to use the Voodoo Dolls here, I think you might have to sort of play around that possibility, because you won't be able to ping both your Voodoo Dolls next turn, and your Conjurers calling onto your Voodoo Dolls won't work because of the Spellbender.
Using the first Conjurer's calling. That is gonna hit the Spellbender. Okay. It's fine.
That's some synergy under Book of Spectres as top deck.
Okay, what's this gonna draw?
Oh man, there's the counterspell though, so they can't play it.
But it does mean they can then play the Power of Creation after it.
Yeah, so I
instead.
think they do go for that. Yeah. Okay, this is this is still a massive deal. And we can't see, but Dome Defender still does have a Spellbender, by the way, that's hidden under the card, so just letting you know that is there. I'm trying to think if there's any 6-mana minions that buff the health of your chicken so you can ping it next turn, but there aren't, unfortunately.
What could you get that would be insane off of Power of Creation here?
Ken Bloodhoof.
Yeah.
Argent Commander. Even Safeguard could be pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of good options.
Wait, why are they not playing Power of Creation? Why are they... Oh, they're being really greedy and they want to play with Khadgar next turn.
I respect it.
I mean, yeah, they know their opponent's hand is really weak, although they should be a little bit scared now because there is the Conjurer's cooling is available for them to finally utilize now they did remove the Spellbender.
But there's no big boys in hand.
Yeah, but this Voodoo Doll, it still gives 4 3-mana minions and it removes a threat from the board. Oh, this is not what you want to see for Durham defenders. Oh no.
Hey, look, that Scale Worm's going to be a beefy boy when they play it. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, that's 3-mana 0/3 whenever you play a beast, or summon a beast, not play a beast, give it +1/+1. And Scale Worm is a beast, but you ready for this Khadgar power creation?
This is going to be nasty.
They could also go for a draw here and they can ping and draw a card because they have the Pyromaniac. They're not a risk at dying though. Mage doesn't really have any burst. Yeah, I think you just go for it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. It's not great.
I go Black Knight. I think you prefer the health. It's just stats at this point.
Do you? Priestess of Elune maybe threatens lethal, whereas Black Knight
True,
might
true.
not.
So that would summon, what, 4 of them, right?
Yes, it will summon 4 of them.
Do you know if there's any way the opponent could have generated a Flame Strike?
Well, yeah, they have the fire. They still have the Witch Doctor in hand, which we do see. So if they top deck
I'd go Black
the
Knight
Dragon,
then,
yeah,
probably.
okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, but they are choosing to go with the 5/4s though. So if Durham defenders top decks a dragon here, their Witch Doctor can discover Flame Strike. Oh man.
That would just completely swing the game.
Oh, Book of Spectres, they won't have mana to play Flame Strike now though, even if they draw the dragon.
But that's lethal. That's more than lethal right on board.
They can still find Blizzard, they can still find Frost Nova, so there are sort of things they can find here that keep them in the game, but nothing that really swings the board back in their favor.
This is 28 damage, 29 with the hero power available.
Yeah, you have to play this. There's no other options. They find the Pyroblast, but okay. So they can take Rail Frost. They can play Scale Worm. They can kill off a minion, and then they can Rail Frost 2 of the 5/4s. And let's say best case scenario. Oh yeah, they kill the 5/4. Then there's 5 + 3 + 3 + 2. So there's 13 damage left on the board for Hearthstoners. +1 from hero power is 14.
And Meteorologist going face twice. Really?
Yeah, oh man. Okay, so if they had stolen a 5/4 there, I mean, it's over. They're just dead on board. Yeah, they didn't steal the 5-drop they needed to, and that's game. And Birmingham, who almost got reverse sweep, managed to clutch out in the last game. We saw no giants drawn the entire time. They win the BM kill. Durham defenders have to laugh.
Wow. What an insane final game there. That was brilliant.
And yeah, Birmingham Hearthstoners, they win the split. That's it. They're our grand champions.
That was... You know what? The techs came in clutch for them. The crowd roaster, it was played. The power of creation, it was played.
Yeah, like their techs actually paid off because it did go down that sort of grindy path that's unusual. But because it went down that path, their couple of extra sort of cards that just like you said, the power of creation just allowed them to have that little bit of extra push, which just got them there. Wow.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to go to a very quick break, and then we're going to come back with an interview with a member of the winning team from Birmingham. We'll see you in a bit.
Yep, see you soon.
I'm joined by Stitler here from Cardstones from Birmingham University. Firstly, congratulations on winning that, of course. Now let's go to game 2 first of all. I think other than that game 5, which we'll get to shortly afterwards, was a very pivotal game in the series, especially top decking that Zildjian. What was that like for you?
Yeah, so that game we thought we'd like lost, and we just needed to top deck like Unleash the Hounds, and then like tracking into Unleash the Hounds, and then I think we just lost if we didn't draw Zildjian again.
Yeah.
And we were like calling it on every draw as well.
And you got it, and then you were able to make the play off of that. What did you think about your opponents playing into the secret which you had there? That kind of won the game for you.
Yeah, well, I think they couldn't do too much. Like, we just got it explosive, and we called that as well. And they were just kind of screwed when they had explosive. They couldn't attack for us that game, really.
Yeah, you got some very favourable RNG on that one.
Yeah.
And now, coming into game 5, you've lost of your mage twice. It looks like, oh, we might just get reverse sweeps here, but you managed to pull it out of the bag. You had a huge swing with that power creation play with the Khadgar, and you pull it away. What were you feeling at the time when that happened?
So going into game 5, we knew once we had the mage left against all 3 of their decks, we knew we were like unfavored against the hunter and the shaman, and then we'd like tech the mage pretty good against mage. So we were like happy we got that matchup last. We had beat big game hunter, which we didn't draw, but getting the power creation, like we were really tempted to use the Khadgar and the Astromancer.
Yeah.
But we figured like just getting 5 8 drops, just 6 drops, just gonna win the game most of the time.
And it looked like you were certainly having fun with that series. I saw a lot of emote spam. So is there anything you'd maybe want to say to either, I don't know, the rest of your teammates, to the audience, or to the opponent team?
Yeah, sorry for BMing the opponent's whole game. Yeah, thanks to Ash and Ben on my team, and Balvin helped us out a lot as well.
Oh, once again, congratulations. So we've got the award for you here. The very nice glass trophy is nice and shiny. But that's it for us today. Thank you, of course, all for watching. Thank you to the sponsors, Asus ROG, Intel, and Twitch Student. Of course, the Red Bull Gaming Sphere, where we are holding this. And make sure that you tune in tomorrow.